All right, go ahead and roll for perception.
I got a 13.
Hey, that's pretty good. With that, you can tell there's some fantasy situations going on. You hear some adult language, and with that, you can tell this podcast probably isn't for kids.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Dungeoncast. I'm Will.
And I'm Brian.
This is the podcast where we talk about everything Dungeons and Dragons, from quick quarrels to questionable quaggoths. And today, we're talking about the Druid.
Prepare yourselves. I cast Fireball. The Dungeoncast.
Druids. I like them. They're very cool. What do you know about Druids, Brian?
Druids, I also like them. They are very cool.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I know that they can turn into bears.
They can.
Fuck yes.
Yes, the Druid's probably most iconic class feature is the fact that it can transform into many animals.
Okay.
Which there are some limitations on that, and that also varies from edition to edition, and we'll talk about that a little bit. The Druid is a class in D&D that is somewhere between a wizard and a cleric that specializes very specifically in magic that is inherently nature-based.
Yeah, like they're in touch with the earth usually.
Yes, they usually
the way a cleric would be in touch with God.
Yes, very much so. It's a spiritual, mystical connection with nature, whatever that is in your world. Sometimes,
Right, yeah.
sometimes it's a nature deity, much like a cleric.
Okay.
Sometimes it's just like a greater nature spirit. Like it could be something like
I always think of it more like a spiritual thing. Like it's like there is a embodiment somewhere that rules over this like area or whatever.
Yeah, and it can totally be like that, like a great spirit of a specific forest, and that's almost like a warlock patron kind of deal. Like the druid, like it's less defined than some of the other spellcasting classes, and this is a spellcasting class. Druids are full casters, much like a cleric or a sorcerer or a wizard.
They get those good spell slots.
They do. They get those
sweet
good
spell slots.
Yes, very powerful, especially in the higher levels.
Please rest and get your spell slots back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't forget.
But the druid, unlike the wizard, in very much the same vein as the cleric, is really versatile. It can focus like almost exclusively on the whole spellcasting thing and be like a artillery or a damage dealer, if you will.
Okay.
But a druid can also completely focus on support, much like a cleric. It might not be able to heal quite as well as a cleric, especially not a life cleric. But it can heal pretty damn well. It's one of the better healers in the game.
Yeah, I hear of people being like, "Oh, I want to play a druid to heal my party," and also like, can druids kind of take a more like take a weapon and do weapon damage also?
They can.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen druids do like, I do some magic-y shit and I do some hard hits.
Yes, they can do melee with weapons. They can also transform into animals, which is where they're going to do most of their melee. But druids have a funny cantrip called Shillelagh, where they basically, I think they can take either a club or a staff. Whatever it is, it has to be made of wood, but they basically, with that cantrip, and enchant their wooden weapon to be based off, rather than being based off like strength or dexterity for their attack, it's based off their wisdom.
Okay.
And same with its damage, and it boosts it from like a D4 to a D8 or something. Basically takes their weapon and makes it useful in the hands of a druid.
Yeah, basically like your wisdom is tied to more like the world and nature and like
right. Like
what I feel like if you're gonna channel that energy to use a weapon attack, it's like you're using some of the momentum from the earth spinning, and you're just kind of like rooting yourself down and channeling it into your blow.
That is really cool. Like I think that's a really cool flavor. Like,
do you know what happens when the world stops and you're not wearing a seatbelt?
What?
You fucking die or something.
I think you'd be hurled from the surface at like near 5,000 miles per hour or something like that.
Have you ever gone 5,000 miles per hour?
No, Brian, I haven't.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 2 of Fantasy Physics. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
You would die.
Yeah, you would die.
Physics, probably.
but they can get into melee, both with weapons and in bear form or whatever animal it is that they've so chosen. I like to think of druids and their magical well of energy be much like in Forgotten Realms. At least I think it's Forgotten Realms. Magic is based off basically magic like permeates the universe.
Okay.
And it's called the weave or whatever.
I was gonna say it's like sounds like something. It's just interwoven with the fabric of space time.
Exactly. Okay. And I think of their communion with nature and their ability to just use nature magic.
The life
I feel
stream
like
in Final Fantasy.
Exactly. There we go. Much like the life stream. That's exactly how I picture it. Which is better analogy than what I was using. So yes, life stream.
Good thing all our listeners have played Final Fantasy, right?
Yeah, I hope so. It's a good game.
You get it.
It holds up, kind of. Anyways, so Druids when they came about, they were based off of the pre-Christian priests of like old Celtic paganism.
Yeah, like Friar Tuck's, right? Or like from
he's specifically Catholic, I believe, in Robin Hood. Or
yeah, but the way he
maybe part of the Church of England.
Why do people?
Actually.
I feel like I've heard people refer to him as like a druid.
Well, I mean, he's kind of dressed like one,
right?
But
yeah,
that's probably because
it takes place in
like
Britain.
A
bow staff.
Does he?
Or is it the other guy? Maybe I'm thoroughly confused.
I don't know Robin Hood well enough to say whether what you're saying is true or not.
I wish you did, because apparently I don't know well enough either.
But I would venture to say, and this is just conjecture, that the reason Friar Tuck may conjure the image of a druid in your mind is because he did exist in England, in Britain, where I'm sure that those who may have become priests might have originated from the pre-Christian priests at the time. Yeah. Now druids in pre-Christian times, they were actually, not only were they priests, but they were like usually educators of the law and like just officials, just like elder officials. So the druid in this game is really very, very loosely based off these. It takes very little from these actual people that lived. But
took the idea of it and magified it.
And they magified it
the fuck up.
And they introduced it as a subclass of cleric. Because the druid and cleric have a lot in common. Both their magics are based off of wisdom. One worships nature, the other worships a deity. Like, I can see where all the parallels are.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until second edition that druid became its own full-fledged class. Now, the druid in earlier editions had a lot of. We've talked about this with other classes where there's like a lot of like strange limitations.
Yeah,
like with the paladin, you had to be lawful good, and
right.
I can't remember what some of the other like things that the paladin had to do, but you had all these rules you couldn't break.
You have to save people when they're in danger, and
right?
Like not
you had to adhere to
and
your oaths and all that stuff.
Don't steal, and you're a good boy.
Yeah, good boy. Well, druids had a lot of that stuff too. The ones that come to mind,
don't litter.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously, you're not going to do that.
Don't touch those flowers. They only bloom once a year.
Yeah. Well, they're going to tell other people that.
Stop pulling the grass out of the ground.
Yeah, they're going to tell them that too. But like for druids, for some of the like the mechanical stuff you couldn't do is you were not allowed to wear armor with metal on it of any kind.
Interesting.
Just
why?
Not allowed.
Metal is not nature-y?
Metal is not nature-y. Yeah, they're very anti-civilization, anti-technology.
Okay.
They're a bunch of hippie Luddites, apparently.
Some wandering what's the guys with the beards and the hats?
Wizard?
No.
I'm like, what?
You can't use electricity?
Oh, they're like Amish people?
Amish.
I guess.
For some reason, when I'm doing the show, I can't make these like name pools.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, that's why I'm here. But,
yep.
Actually, the only like D&D-esque, Druid-esque character I can think of off the top of my head, Radagast the Brown from Lord of the Rings.
Yes, who's a really cool character.
He was a really cool character who they really fluffed him out for the movies.
I appreciated that because
me too.
Radagast in the book
was
like
kind of
almost non-existent.
Yeah, he was very boring and very brief in the actual books. But yeah, he's very much a druid.
It's like, fuck yeah, this is a character in this world, and they have like a really strong personality. You got it right off the bat. Good job.
You knew who
movies.
he was. Yeah. So back to the limitations. They also had to be true neutral originally.
Okay.
Because that was just the alignment that I guess.
Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
What does it mean to be true neutral?
It can mean a few things actually. It's not like a lot of the other alignment boxes. It's very it's a wide range of things it could be. Some would say that the average citizen who's just trying to live their lives is a true neutral.
Okay.
Some would say that like a Buddhist monk who's all about like balance and tranquility is true neutral.
Okay.
But those are two very different things.
Yeah. Does it mean that when there's too much good going on, you get troublesome, or does it mean that you go with the flow, or does it mean when there's too much trouble going on, you step up to be good to achieve this balance? Is that what I'm trying to achieve, neutral versus like, what does it mean to be as a character neutral?
So it's kind of both, and it can be both. True neutral can be about maintaining the balance. So like much as when there are two Sith, there must be two Jedi to rise up to balance it out.
Yeah.
Or it could fall along the lines of like, regardless of what is going on in the world around me, I am true neutral. And the rest of it doesn't concern me. I'm just trying to live my life.
Okay.
Both could be considered true neutral, even though they're drastically different, like worldviews.
And what does it mean in a party setting where you're decision making? Does it mean that you don't care? Are you kind of aloof?
That's lazy. If you ask me, that's lazy role play, but it totally can mean that you don't care. Again, I would, if you don't want to be like beholden to your alignment too much and you're going with true neutral, I would definitely like play it like you're playing like just a common man just trying to live his life. You're not concerned about
the big picture. You're
not concerned about like good and evil, and like you understand why laws are important, but also like you understand why breaking them is fine too. Like you just don't have any strong opinions on the dichotomies of good and evil or law and chaos. You might have strong opinions about a lot of things. Like you might love your family and everything's about your family. But like everything else doesn't matter. Like,
okay,
you know, you could be passionate about things. You don't have to be like the neutrals in Futurama. Have you ever watched Futurama?
Yeah, but I haven't. I don't know what that is.
Oh my god, I wish I could call it the episode. But like there's this civilization of people and they're all super neutral, but they're kind of like what you're talking about. Where
They're just boring.
They're super boring. And I think like the ship's going down and the captain of the ship's like, tell my wife I said hello. And it's just like real neutral. Everything's really neutral.
So for the interest of adventuring, I would say from what you've told me that if neutral is in the middle of a chart of determining who's lawful good or whatever, this neutral person has access to almost every slot on this board, but doesn't live in them. Because loving your family could be seen as a good thing, but it's not for like, it's not because I appreciate like these, like because I'm lawful good and like I was told and raised that this is like what I'm supposed to do as a man, and a father or a mother or whatever, you know? Okay.
I would say this is why alignment kind of breaks down, because like it doesn't make sense in normal terms. But what was generally accepted when you were of an alignment, your actions could always be either your alignment or one step away from your alignment. So if you were true neutral, you were kind of allowed to do things that fall between lawful neutral and chaotic neutral, or neutral good and neutral evil. Okay. If that makes any sense.
I feel like it plays more into extreme situations where you're faced with a choice.
Yeah.
And that's where it'll start really getting difficult.
Yeah, and this is where alignments change and whatnot. Yeah. But now we're pretty far off subject, so let's get back to it.
Yes.
So they were forced to be true neutral back in the day, and in a lot of ways this makes sense because druids are, generally speaking, it's very tropish for druids to be all about balance, the balance between nature and civilization. A lot of times you'll see like, the four elements, fire, air, earth, and water, and how there needs to be a balance between the four. Yes. And whenever there's an upset, it's the duty of druids to fix that situation.
Yeah, they're trying to balance the chaos.
Yeah, so oftentimes these true neutral druids kind of fall into what you were talking about, or what we were talking about when it comes to like maintaining the balance.
Nature's
actually
out of
doing
balance.
something.
I need to do whatever it takes to fix that. And if they need to be like murderous bums or like go be like righteous and do good, then they'll go do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we talked about how they weren't allowed to wear metal on their armor. Now they had a set amount of weapons that they could use, which is very much in line with the way clerics used to be. Clerics used to be allowed to only use weapons, unbladed weapons, right? We talked about that,
like flails and maces and stuff.
Yeah, flails and maces and clubs and hammers
and axes.
Yeah.
No axes, a bladed weapon.
Axes, spears, almost and swords, all bladed. Yeah. Crap. Oh yeah. So druids have their own list. Okay. It's mostly wooden.
Yeah, like Donatello style bow staff is what I think about. Like, schmack.
But for some reason, the scimitar is allowed. which is weird.
That seems extra bladed.
Yeah, but I've seen a lot of it seems like super bladed and very metal. But
those aren't these rules. Those aren't the cleric rules that we were talking about. These are different set of rules.
These are druid rules.
Right.
These are druid rules from back in the day. These aren't now. But it's just like, why was the scimitar allowed? I don't know why.
Because it's got that sweet hook.
Yeah, it's got that.
Maybe
curve.
they didn't know who to give it to. Like, we still have the scimitar. What do we do?
Yeah.
Well, I know that guy
It
uses
looks
primarily
cool
wood,
in the
but
druid's
what if?
hand.
Yeah, see, like, exactly.
And it does. I've seen a lot of art with druids with a scimitar, and it does look pretty cool. So maybe it's just the rule of cool. So that's fine. I like that.
It's a good weapon to balance the shit out of some nature.
Yeah, that's true. These, much like a machete, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
Although I don't think a druid would do that.
Well, maybe they need to.
Because you could use druid craft, which is a cantrip where you could just make vines move out of your way.
Yeah, it's most. I would think it's more for like evildoers' faces.
Oh, there we go. That works. Speaking of evildoers' faces, druids usually have a very specific enmity towards that which is unnatural. Specifically, aberrations and the undead.
Right. Okay.
Druids are super, super against those things.
You're not allowed in my place.
Yeah. Unlike clerics, they don't get like any special stuff against undead, but like they don't like them. Super against them. Same with aberrations, so like beholders, aboliths, illithids, any of the weird alien shit that doesn't belong in this realm of existence.
Right.
They're kind of about eradicating that shit.
Okay.
Trying to think of what else. They're probably not the biggest fans of like automatons or constructs, but they're probably just like whatever. Like,
okay.
Fuck it, whatever. I mean, I think most
druids. You're natural enough.
Most druids,
I guess.
yeah. Most druids have to come to terms with the fact that civilization isn't going anywhere. Although I have read some books where like the antagonist of the story was like an arch druid trying to fucking wipe out civilization and bring Earth back to like prehistoric times.
We need to rebalance.
Yeah.
Plague, human plague.
Yeah,
viruses.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Sucking the carbon out of everything.
Yeah. So that's one way to do it.
Okay.
So
fracking.
So when it comes to so we talked about like versatility and whatnot. In 4th edition, druids kind of were interesting. I think we talked a bit about how in 4th edition there were different like roles that a character could have in combat.
Okay.
So there was striker, which was damage dealer, a tank, which was called defender, a healer was called a leader, and then there was a controller, which was like a wizard was a controller where you were able to do stuff to control the battlefield, like do different zones and status effects and stuff like that.
Okay, that's sweet.
Druids actually had 2 versions in 4th edition. One was a healer or a leader, and one was a controller.
Okay.
And honestly, the controller version, if you focus on like the beast transformation stuff, you could really be a tank too. And that you
become beasts. Don't you take on the stats of that particular animal
in the now edition? Yes. In 4th edition, wild shape, which we're gonna get into in a minute, was a lot more nondescript. It was kind of, you could turn into an animal or animal-like thing of your choice. What it was didn't matter because it didn't affect the stats. So you decided what you wanted to look like. The stats were whatever was tied to your class.
Right, okay.
So that was 4th edition. So in 5th edition, you could still kind of do all those things. You can be tanky because you could turn into a fucking bear.
Exactly.
And the way it works, if I remember correctly, is you can transform into an animal. You gain all that animal stats, the HP, the armor, all the abilities, strength, all the ability scores. And let's say you're fighting as a bear and you're kicking ass, but like you're starting to take some damage and you're like, you get down to real low HP. You can transform back into your normal form.
And you take those stats, which was what they were before, right?
What do you mean? What?
Like you revert back to your normal form stats, like the HP you had. No?
You revert back to what you were before you transformed.
Yeah, wherever, if your HP was minus 13, then you would come back as minus 13. Is that what you're saying?
What do you mean?
Like if you were in battle, right, and you took 13 damage from like some arrows.
As a bear?
No, as a person. Then you turn into the bear. Yes. And then your bear gets dwindled down to 1, let's say, as the...
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And then you turn back into the druid, like the human form or
you're
whatever.
Back to 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly how it works, which means that you can tank a lot. Now, granted, you can only... I think it's 2 wild shapes wild shape transformations per long rest, but it might be per short rest.
Is this also
obscene.
Is is it burning a spell slot or is that an extra pool?
It's just a thing. It's just a thing you can do. Druids are very powerful in this game.
Well, can we short rest so I can turn into more animals?
Sure. Yeah. Let's take a short rest. I'll tell you all about it.
welcome to the part of the show where we stop talking about the thing we were talking about and talk about something else, and that something else is you and a little bit of us. But we're going to start with you. Saw those hundo subscribers roll in. That was nice. Will's chair just did a funny thing. Yeah. We just saw those 100 subscribers roll through on SoundCloud, and I am stoked for it. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. I know some of you are robots and you won't be listening to this actually, but still thank you. Really cool. And I saw y'all roll in. I was creeping, and I know you got friends. So tell them about the show if you think they'll be into it. That'd be awesome.
Yes, please share the show if you enjoy what we're doing here. It really helps out a lot. I wanted to talk a little bit about the contest that's still ongoing. It will be ongoing until July 4th, in which we are giving away 3 ultra detailed, high definition, super sexy looking custom Hero Forge minis.
You better believe they're those high definition minis.
Yeah, they look great. I actually own 2 of, well, it's of the same character, to be honest, but they look great. And I believe you own one, right?
Oh yeah. And on my 4K TV, crisp.
Nice. And so we're giving away 3, and it's really easy to enter. All you have to do is get on Twitter, tweet out a link to the show with the hashtag Dungeoncast. I will be keeping an eye on people who do so and adding them to the list. And then on July 4th, I will draw 3 names from the people who have done so, and 3 lucky individuals get a custom Hero Forge mini.
Yeah, Will's not Big Brother when he's just gonna watch your tweets roll in. He's not gonna watch your other stuff.
No,
so don't worry about that. But we're really appreciative of all you guys hitting us up with that constructive criticism, that positive feedback. All that stuff is really good, and we like to implement it in the show. So if you have any questions or anything you want to see us work on, go ahead and get into the comments section below. Get in there. Don't be scared. We're not scared. Say what you gotta say. You can find us on soundcloud.com/the Dungeoncast. You can search Dungeoncast on YouTube. We'll pop right up. You'll see our fantasy faces pop up in a little thumbnail. Yeah, and if you're listening to us on an iPhone, some kind of Apple software podcast style, please leave something in the comment section on there and a rating. That would really help our show get some traction. But the most important thing is please tell your friends.
All right, I think we're done.
Yes.
All right. Back to the show.
Let's go back to the show. I'm recording.
Okay.
You're recording?
I'm recording.
I'm recording.
All right, cool. So, Brian, I'm going to teach you how to turn into a bear.
Fuck. It's like the only thing I've really ever wanted to do secretly. Fuck this podcast. This is going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be the last episode after this.
I'm not actually going to teach you how to turn into a bear, but I'm talking about how druids go about
what
doing
the fuck?
it.
Well,
I'm sorry, man.
Just kidding. You got my hopes up, though.
So like we said, wild shape is the defining feature for druids.
Dude, I got polar bears on my socks.
Oh, you do? Oh, nice.
Yeah, I love bears.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize you were such a Barophile, but
Ew.
Yeah,
no, not like that.
Okay. Anyway,
I just like
moving
them,
on.
Will.
Back to Wild Shape, please. So Wild Shape's super cool. We talked a little bit about how
not turning into a bear around you.
God damn it. The HP, kind of the cheat loop there with the HP by transforming and then like transforming back. But there are some other rules for when you transform into a beast. So we talked about you gain all the beast stats.
Sick.
I think except for like intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, that stays the same because oftentimes these beasts lack intelligence.
Yeah,
so
you don't get
you're
nerfed.
still you. Yeah, you don't
I
get
thought
nerfed.
like you'd be a dumb bear.
Yeah, no, that would make for such interesting role play, but no.
Yeah, because bears aren't necessarily like they're clever, but they don't read books.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
No, as a bear, you can totally read books.
In D&D, your bear can speak 4 languages.
Yes, except for you probably can't speak them, but you can probably understand them.
You can understand them, and you have dark vision.
Yes. Double dark vision if the bear already had it.
Well, one for each eye.
There you go.
120 feet.
Okay, some of the other things though, you cannot cast spells. No spell casting when you're in beast form.
That's
which
fair.
is fair. Yeah.
Yeah. You probably become some kind of like agile, dexterous bird, or like a rabbit, or like a big ass strong bear. So
yeah,
sure.
Exactly. And the other thing is you and the dungeon master. Now, okay, you and the dungeon master have to decide what happens to your equipment when you transform. Generally speaking, it is probably the most common that it just merges with your form and we don't worry about it.
Okay.
Like that is literally, it's in the player's handbook. It says that. Like that's the most common thing that you're probably going to do.
Okay.
And I've never seen it done another way. Although it would be interesting if the druid transformed and hulked out of their clothes every time it turned into a bear, Which I say bear because bear's the most common thing I see because bears are fucking vicious.
Yeah, dude, why aren't you turning into a bear?
You know, but you can turn into a wolf. You can turn into
mountain lion or
a sparrow. You can turn into a mountain lion. Yeah, it's all based off of a challenge rating of the monster. And I believe when you transform, you could only transform into creatures that have the beast. That are considered of the beast category.
Oh, okay.
Nothing outside of that.
So you become a skunk?
Yes.
That's some good goof.
Yeah, I love that. That would cause a lot of mayhem, I'm sure. Yes. But it would be interesting to see, like, okay, so I transform into a skunk, and now all my clothes and my armor and everything is all strewn about the ground. And when I transform back, I'm naked. Oh. So that would be some interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you have, you said there was a cantrip to like move vines and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe you can just grab whatever's around foliage wise and like.
I think that's
loincloth yourself up.
That's plan A, definitely.
Yeah. But if you have a wiener, everybody saw it.
Okay, Brian. Yeah. So when it comes to druids, they can be a little bit more work for your dungeon master than some other classes. Not necessarily. Honestly, not really most of the time, but sometimes because by being a druid, you now cause the DM some cause to create like how do you exist in this world? Like, are you from a conclave? Where does this conclave exist? How does your power work? Is it from a very specific source, or is it from like this life stream, if you will? Like,
I'm sure
there's world building that kind of has to go along with it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's like pockets of druids, or maybe there's not. Maybe they're just lonely boys that sit out in the forest and meditate.
There can be those too. Yeah, absolutely. Another thing to just on the player side of things is as a druid, you have dedicated your entire life to nature. Much the same way a cleric has dedicated themselves to a god. Like, how did that happen? Yeah. Like, how did that come about? That there's a lot of roleplay to be had there.
You can be born amongst druids and be raised that way, or maybe you just like, dude, maybe I shouldn't have built stuff and cleared all these trees. Maybe I should have just lived in the trees.
Yeah, you could just have an epiphany. Yep. I love the druid class, and it looks like a lot of fun. I've never played one, and the only reason I haven't played one is I've never come up with a character that was compelling. I love the class and I love what it can do, but I just haven't come up with that character that I'm like, oh, I want to play that. But one of these days, I'm sure I will. So, outside of the wild shape, druids are also spellcasters, and most of their spells are going to be like nature based. A lot of elemental magics, a lot of like fire and lightning.
Cool.
Some cold stuff.
Really cool.
And a general like support and heal spells and whatnot.
Be fun, like Storm Genasi Druid.
That'd be kind of cool. Yeah, that'd be
kind of an interesting spin on it.
Although Storm Genasi doesn't exist in this game yet, which is a shame.
That's right.
Yeah, but at level 2, druids get their archetype split, and they're called Druidic circles, which are basically like
cults.
I mean, kind of. Yeah,
call it what it is.
Different religious paths that you can take. One is the circle of the moon, and one is the circle of the land. The circle of the moon.
Circle with cult.
Yeah, there we go. The cult of the moon or the cult of the land. Now, moon is probably the most commonly one taken. It's because the moon one, I think this is because like the moon and like werewolves transforming. This is the one that like super focuses in on your wild shape.
Oh, okay.
You can be bigger, badder beasts when you're Circle of the Moon Druid. Nice. And even later on, I believe you can spend spell slots to heal yourself in beast form.
So you're in free HP mode, and you just keep on getting free HP.
Yeah, you got to spend the slots to do it, but you got a lot of those.
So not free, but like
but like you're a full caster. You got a lot of slots.
Oh fuck, I need to keep being a bear.
Yeah. Later on, your beast form is going to get like magical resistances, so like slashing and other shit, and then
barbarian.
Yeah,
get it.
Oh yeah,
because if you're a bear.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay, cool.
I get it, Brian. At level 11, the Circle of the Moon Druid gains the ability to wild shape into one of 4 elementals: an air elemental, fire elemental, water elemental, and earth elemental.
Really cool.
I think you might have to like spend a spell slot, or there's some sort of resource you must spend. I don't think it's just free.
Yeah.
But it's still elemental is much more powerful than almost any of the beasts you'll be able to become.
Okay.
The other circle is the Circle of the Lamb. Now this one, although you could still wild shape, you're not going to be able to become like these bigger, badder beasts. You're going to focus most of your druidic work into your spell work. These are the real wizardy druids, and they're going to get more spells, bigger spells, extra cantrips. And then you have, much like the ranger picks a favorite terrain, a druid picks a specific terrain or land that they specialize in or are from or whatever.
Okay.
I believe they are as follows.
That's like the ranger, huh?
Yeah, exactly. There's the desert, the swamp, forest. I think there might be a mountain. I know there's coast. It might be just those 5. I might be missing one. Do you get
like the ocean? Like
coast.
Okay, so coast would be like I'm a sailor kind of deal.
Yeah, you do like ocean and storm type magic. And you get spells, much like a druid gets domain spells. Mm-hmm. You get domain spells of your land, if you will. And like, so as you level up, you gain access to spells that druids normally wouldn't.
Okay.
Very specific to the terrain that you're from. I think Arctic might be one, tundra or whatever.
Cool.
Generally speaking, there's just land types that you can choose from. You're going to get better spell recovery. Much like a wizard or a sorcerer, they have a resource pool where they can spend that resource and regain slots. Druids get a very similar type thing.
Okay.
Or druids of the land specifically. And then later on, you're going to gain other types of like resistances. Like I believe land druids are capable of traversing difficult terrain if that terrain is caused by like natural formations. So like vines, trees, brush, rocks, river water, any of that stuff that normally like would take double movement, you could just move right through it.
Nice, man. Really handy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I believe you get resistance, if not immunity, to charm and fear effects and stuff like that.
Okay.
This is at much higher levels. Speaking of the much higher levels, one interesting thing that stuck out to me is at level 18, all druids get a feature called Timeless Body.
Oh, sick.
Which
sounds neat.
Makes you age 10 times slower than normal.
Fuck, you become a tree.
Well, okay, that's one way to look at it.
Oh,
so yeah, so for every 10 years of life, you only age 1 year.
Fuck.
Which is fucking crazy. Yeah.
I'm level 18 now.
I know.
I'm gonna live for fucking ever. All druids are trying to get to level 18.
I know. Hell yeah, they are. They want to live that 1,000 years, man. So
and my druid does nothing but push-ups. Can't the druid, and I might derail it a little bit, but can't the druid teleport through trees at some level? Like, is that something that
maybe probably?
I feel like they do that on Critical Role. Like they definitely do it on Critical Role.
That
like,
might
there's a guy that teleports through the trees.
That might be less to do. I mean, I don't watch Critical Role, so I don't know. But that sounds more to me like maybe it's a magic item they have, or maybe it's a bonus feature from the storyline that they got or something. But maybe it's just something fucking druids can do, and I fucking don't know what I'm talking about.
Because this guy, they're like, hey, we need to go here.
By the way,
and that guy's
the
like,
druid on the team is a girl, so
yeah. Well, I don't watch it either. I just hear about it.
So, but are you sure it's a guy?
No.
Oh, okay.
I have no idea.
Okay.
One of the people.
I was about to burst
sorry,
your
I was
myth
doing my
right
gender
there.
thing there. I shouldn't be. One of the team members I know teleports through trees.
So
for
it would
sure.
probably be Marisha, which I don't remember her character's name. It'll come to me at some point.
It's not
Keyleth.
It's not relevant. Keyleth, yeah.
Yeah.
They are cool, and I like that show, but I don't got the time.
Yeah. Who does?
Not me.
Yeah.
well, let's get back to the druid then.
Yeah. As far as I know, I mean, maybe there's a spell that does that, but I mean, maybe.
It sounds
cool,
awesome.
Fuck yeah. It sounds like something if it isn't in the player's handbook, it's something I'd come up with. If a player wanted to do that, we'd figure it out. So do you got any more questions about the druid? Because we're about to wrap it up. I'm about to just like tick off a couple other things that I got in my notes here, and then.
Well, yeah, I guess that was my question: is can they teleport through trees? And I guess I gotta go find out. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. That'd be cool.
So druids, because of their versatility, because of their capability of kind of being whatever you want them to be, they can specialize. They could be they're one of those classes that can be a jack of all trades. It's probably why I like them so much.
Yeah,
because I think we've talked about that on this show quite a bit. Where I love classes that can do a little bit of everything.
Get your hands on all the stuff.
Yeah, druids definitely fall into that category, but they are real middle of the road when it comes to like their armors and their weapons and their hit die and whatnot. Like they get a D8 rather than a D6 or a D10. They get most armors, like they get lights and mediums, but they don't get heavies. They get a lot of weapons, but they don't get all the weapons.
Right.
They can do shields though, which is nice, which is cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, I do like that. And I believe like they get proficiencies in like wisdom and intelligence saves, which just goes to show they're very
versatile.
A cognitive class. Like
yeah,
they're very much in the mind, wise and intelligent at the same time.
Interesting.
And I think that wraps it up. Do you have any other questions about druids?
Nah, I don't think so. I think, well, how big are the heals? Because you said they were as big as not as big as life cleric heals, but you could sustain your party, right?
Well,
as a healer.
a big part of the reason they're not as big as life cleric heals is because life clerics get features that literally boost their heals.
Right, exactly.
So like you could cast the same spell as a druid, but you don't get that extra cheese on top.
Boosts. Yeah. Okay. So you can maintain. You can stand up as a healer.
Yeah,
Pretty
absolutely. I would say there's your party will have no problem if their only healer is a druid who has plenty of heal stuff. You're fine.
Cool.
You're fine.
Yeah, as a support, I guess.
Yeah. So other than that, I think the druid's a fucking really cool class. I wish I saw more of them. Like,
yeah, I wish I had a game I could play one in because I want to try it out. There's so much stuff I want to try out, but games like, they're few and far between. So if you want to play D&D all the time, like with different campaigns going on, I feel like, I don't know, I like to focus on my character and really flesh them out.
Right.
So
right. Yeah, and it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I've got life to live. I'll get
we'll
there.
get to it.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, if that's all you got for questions, I say we call it a game.
Let's call it a game.
All
See
right.
you guys later. Thanks.
Thank you again.